Showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
What's up, folks? Welcome to episode 178 of the I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name is Chris Hollifield. I am your host. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you so much for downloading and checking it out. I'm just getting over a bit of a summertime sore throat, so please bear with me. Just getting my voice back, actually. I was in a bit of a panic. I wasn't sure how I was going to record the intro to this episode, but here I am. I'm sitting down. I'm chatting, so please bear with me. This episode, Nicholas Don Smith joins me. We sit down, we chat. We have a great conversation, get to find out about how he got into comedy, found out about him as an individual, some different struggles that he's dealt with, and virtually how comedy has saved his life. Really great guy. I've been wanting to get him on the podcast for a while, so I was really honored to find some time and sit down and chat with him. We recorded this episode at Utah Musicians Radio Studio here in Salt Lake City. Make sure to check out their website, amr.fm. All local music, all the time. You can actually listen to music in any country, really. I mean, they're from all over, Australia, all the way to Utah here. So check out their website, amr.fm. I want to thank John Farmer for letting us record it at his studio and for his continual support. Make sure to check out the website for the podcast at iamsaltlake.com. That's where you can find the show notes for this episode, as well as the entire back catalog. All the other interviews I've done here with individuals in Salt Lake City can be found there on the website, as well as links for iTunes, Stitcher Radio. That way you can subscribe. There is also a donate button. Feel free to donate to the podcast. That way you can help keep it moving forward with web hosting, audio hosting, equipment, and so on. I want to thank those of you that have been here since the beginning. Your continual support means a lot. I want to welcome the new listeners, those of you that might have just joined in on the podcast and checking it out. I want to welcome you to the show, and feel free to drop me an email, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. Let me know if you possibly might want to come on a future episode and share your story with the rest of the listeners. All right, with all that being said, I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to give my throat a bit of a break. I'm going to let you listen to the conversation I had with Nicholas Don Smith at the Utah Musicians Radio Studio here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Like I mentioned, I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a voice this evening, but I'm glad I do.
Me too.
Yeah. So how was your day, Nicholas? You just got out of work, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was actually not too bad. Mondays can be pretty brutal in a call center, but it wasn't too bad. So calls were coming in slow, and it gave me a chance just to veg out and watch Mystery Science Theater 3000 on YouTube. So
awesome. Well, I'm excited to sit down and chat and get to know you. I've seen a few, shows of yours, but this will give an opportunity to get to know who is Nicholas and what makes him tick, and how he got to where he's at today in the comedy world. Were you born here in Utah, or let's start a little bit at the beginning. All right. Of Nicholas. Where were you born?
American Fork Hospital, May 27th, 1978.
So, yeah, you got it right down to the time almost. So,
yeah.
Utah County is where you grew up. So, did you, American Fork your whole childhood?
Yeah, I'm still there. Just circumstances. Never been able to get out of there. So
out of American Fork?
Yeah.
It's tough. I moved to Provo when I was 16 from California.
Oh, wow.
And that was a culture shock.
Oh, I bet.
And, I had to get out. And that's when I took off out east, and then now I'm back in Salt Lake and, close enough to family, but not in Utah County. So you only child, or do you have siblings?
I have an older brother. He was born in 1970, so he's almost 45. He's sibling I have. He was born autistic, and then in 2005 he developed paranoid schizophrenia, and so he's had it really rough. So I live with him and my dad currently, just because that's just how things have been.
Yeah.
But
you're pretty close with your brother.
Yeah, very, very, very close. Yeah, we get along really well, and it wasn't always the case. So he was the only child for like 7 years and a few months.
Yeah,
and then I come into the world. And I remember my parents telling me he wasn't too thrilled having this baby in the house. He didn't know really what to think of me. And so we really didn't connect too well until we got, until I was an older kid.
Like how old do you think?
6 or 7.
So still pretty young.
Still young. But, he didn't like me for a while. And, but it was weird, because, my mom, told me, because, he was really slow to develop things. And so he didn't develop the same way a lot of babies do. And so he would observe, after a while he started observing me and then started like imitating what I was doing, like, eating my fingers and chewing on my feet, and started crawling when I would and like imitate me. And so he, I guess, I don't know if it was his way of like trying to figure me out and what I was or what it was. Nobody really knows, but I think that maybe started him on the road to connecting with me. But he would like do things to see how I would react. So he liked startling me and scaring me. And one time he got like hot water going in the tub and tried to put me in the tub.
Tried to drown you.
Or something. And then another time, like when I was a kid, I vaguely have a vague recollection of this. Like he shoved me down the stairs. And
so did you fall down the stairs?
Yeah, I did. I remember falling. It scared the hell out of me, but I did you
get hurt?
I didn't get hurt. I would be on like, superficial bruises and things like that, but I lucked out. But and then, after a while, he got more and more comfortable having me around. We started to bond, and then we, became best friends, basically.
Yeah.
So
when like your teenage years probably is when you got the closest to your brother, you think, or it's hard to probably really.
Yeah,
say
it's
exactly.
hard to say. Because he like once I got older and he started to develop more and more. He really got into like games, board games, and eventually like into role play games like Dungeons and Dragons, and so he liked to play games with me, and he would like started pulling me into those kinds of things, and so he became like one of my. He was very entertaining, and so he wasn't afraid to include me in things that he was doing, and so we became playmates.
I remember hearing this. It was a minute. You had this conversation on Jason Harvey's podcast, I believe it was, the Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. I've actually never played Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. There's a part of me that kind of wants to. And do you still play?
I haven't for a long time. I think the last time I really did a lot of role playing was 2002. And
why not? What made you stop?
My cousin Matt, he and my group of friends, we used to go over to his place all the time and play different role play campaigns. And he was working on his degree for psychology. He just graduated from BYU with a bachelor's, and he was moving off to the University of Texas in Austin. And so when he moved, we kind of
the game ended.
The gaming kind of ended, yeah, because he was really, really good at being the game master.
And I take it takes to be a good game master to have a good game. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I know nothing about Dungeons and Dragons, so.
And it's that way with any role play game that you play is. It's really important to have a dungeon master, a game master who's very creative and imaginative, who is able to adapt to what the players decide to do, because they can throw the whole game on you if you're not experienced enough or prepared enough. They can go in a completely different direction than you expect them to do.
Yeah.
And so he was really good at controlling the chaos. And he was also a really good storyteller. And so he would, with his words, paint the picture, say, you're seeing this, you walk into this room, this is happening over here, that's happening over there. He described the decor. And then he would play what are called NPCs, or non-player characters. So you would interact with them and you basically role play things out. In a really good game, it's more than just rolling dice and doing math. So
interesting. So what got you into comedy? That's, obviously the reason I brought you here is to find out about your comedy, and you're a brilliant comedian. I've seen you a handful of times.
Thank you. You're way too generous, but thank you.
How long have you, the first time, when did you get up for open mic? Was it a typical Wise Guys thing? You went on a Wednesday night
Well, the very first time that I did a set was I was in my early 20s, and it was at a family reunion. We used to have these long weekend family reunions up at one of the relatives. He's got land up in Wyoming. He's got this awesome stretch of land in there, and he's got a big cabin. And so we would do these big camp out family reunions, and on the Saturday night they would do a family talent show, and I got talked into going up and doing some stand up. And so the whole day I was just a bag of nerves. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to do. And I was just trying to think of funny things I could say.
But of course everybody's like, oh, Nicholas, he's the funny guy.
Yeah. And so putting all this pressure on me, and just and so they had a little PA system, and so there's all these family members staring at me, young and old, and I just started in just off the cuff and started talking about army recruiters, because at the time I was always getting contacted by army recruiters, and so I went into I am not military material, and kind of just did this whole thing of how terrible I would be, and the drill sergeant yelling at me, what's his name, the guy from Full Metal Jacket. I did an impression of him.
I can't. My mind's blank.
L.R. Ermey, something like that, and it went really great. It went really good, but I didn't have a desire to do comedy at that time. Everyone's like, oh, you should do comedy. You're so funny. And metal. I wanted to be a bass player in a metal band. That was what was in my heart. That was my dream. And so that was what, I was pursuing.
So you wanted to play guitar?
Yeah, bass guitar.
Bass guitar.
Yeah.
In a metal band. Mm-hmm. How old were you when you started that then?
14. I think it was 14 years old when, talking with my friends. I was like, that would be cool. And my best friend Jared really wanted to be a drummer. And he got his drum set first. And then when I was 17, I got my first 4-string bass guitar and started taking lessons. And, we tried, doing projects, but, he went on a mission, and I tried to get things going with a lot of different people, and musicians are super flaky, and so it's really hard trying to find just the right person. And finally,
why I hear that all the time.
Yeah,
musicians just being flaky. Why?
I don't know. I
mean, they're people too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just think it's the artistic personality, and you're. I don't know. It's a lot of them, they love to play and they love to perform, but when it comes to actually putting in the hard work and having to do the boring crap, then it's hard to find dedicated people. And finally in 2004, after my friend had been married for a little while, he created a band with his wife. She was going to be the singer. He was the drummer. I was a bass player, and we found a mutual friend to be the guitar player. And
what was the name of your first band?
My very first band, it was a 2-piece band. My friend Jared and I put together this drum and bass instrumental. We actually recorded a little demo on a 4-track machine when we were 17, 16, 17. Yeah, I was 17. I was 17. And he came up with the name Mortal Asphalt Grind. And we were just
I love it.
That is so metal. And he was inspired by that Pantera song, Primal Concrete Sledge. He just liked the cadence of it, and so Mortal Asphalt Grind. So it's what happens to you when you wreck on a motorcycle.
So did you ever get to the point playing music that you actually played out at all, or played bars? Or
Finally, yeah, with the band that we started in 2004, and we kept that going until the end of 2007. We worked really, really hard. Jared was the engine. He was the driving force behind that band. It was kind of his vision. He wrote the majority of the material, and he was a promotion machine. And so I kind of learned, a lot of the stuff I do with comedy, I kind of learned from him.
Where's Jared today?
He's divorced, a couple kids.
Oh, he's the one who went on a mission, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one who went on a mission, and
so he's not playing music.
No. He's trying to support his kids.
Do you play music at all now?
Just for fun. I'll plug in and dink around, or sometimes when I'm with other friends who play, we'll get together and just have little jam sessions, but nothing serious. I got burned out on it because after my band with Jared fell apart at the end of 2007, divorce happened, and that's a lot of what caused it to crumble. And so we tried getting another project going, and it was just a thing of just trying to find people who were as dedicated as we were, and they just weren't. And his life got complicated, and he had less and less time to dedicate to it. And
do you miss it? Do you miss playing?
Yeah, at times I do. I really do. I miss the camaraderie. It's a lot of fun getting together with people you enjoy being with and creating something. I love the collaboration. And of course, it was fun as hell being with my best friend all the time, getting to, we're like, hey, maybe we could make something happen with this. So yeah, there are definitely times when I miss it, and there are times when I like being the backup support. I like being the bass player, and I can just kind of sit back and just kind of be the glue that kind of holds the aural assault together.
Yeah,
I don't have to be the center of attention. So yeah, there are definitely times when I miss that, but now that I've been doing comedy, it's in my blood, it's in my marrow, and I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
So back to comedy. You mentioned what you said you played music up to about 2007?
Yeah, 2008.
So were you doing comedy at all any of this time, going to any open mic nights or anything like that? Or?
No. After the band crumbled and we realized that we weren't going to have the time or energy to be able to put together a new project, couldn't find people, I got really depressed because that had been an emotional outlet for me for a while. My mom, I've been taking care of her since I was helping to take care of her since I was 15. Her health just really started to decline, and so my dad needed a lot of help with her, and my brother helped as much as he could.
So a lot of pressure at 15 years old.
Tremendous amount of pressure, and so but I had creative outlets, and so that really helped to I could pour a lot of my frustration and anger and angst into the creative process of music, and metal's a perfect conduit for strong negative emotion, and it's a healthy way to get it out of your system. But that was gone. That was suddenly pulled out, and So I got suicidally depressed. I've had problems with suicidal depression since I was a child, but it got really bad, and I started planning what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I've had periods of time where I've gotten that bad, and I would, okay, here's what I'm going to do. And, and as the years go by, you alter and change your plans. At least I do.
I think more people have been there than are vocal. I've been there myself, and so somebody I could relate with that.
Yeah, it's a weird mindset where like that suddenly becomes the only option. You don't see any other options, and a lot of the time it's not like this weeping and carrying on thing. It's like this very cold, calculated decision that you make because you're exhausted. It just comes down to exhaustion, and I just want everything to stop. I want just the peace that only oblivion can bring. And after my brother got really bad in 2005, I was still able to do the band thing. But there was a brief period in time during, I'd say around 2006, where I got as close as putting the barrel in my mouth and almost pulling the trigger.
What stopped you?
I had a moment of clarity, and I saw the aftermath of it, of my mom and my brother seeing that. And I was like, I can't do that to them. They're screwed without me. They are screwed without me. I'm the glue. I'm the foundation that holds this family together. I cannot do that to them. I don't have that. I didn't have that luxury, to opt out. And so for a couple of years, I had the band that really helped. I would have have hard days, but I would get through it. But after the band dissolved, again, I felt like very trapped, very alone, very isolated. I felt like it was just me and my little family against this cold, dark, indifferent universe.
And you're still living in American Fork.
Yeah, I'm still there. I've never moved out of that house.
Okay.
I have never been able to get out of that house just because of just health problems and debt and just every fucking thing you can imagine just piling up. And so I just felt the whole weight of the universe on me again. I didn't have an outlet anymore. And again, I started planning what I was going to do. I was going to do it up in the American Fork Canyon. I love it out there, and I was just gonna wander off somewhere, and then just take my head off, and because I didn't want it to happen at the home. And what pulled me out of it, and I've told very, very, very few people this, but and it's so fucking sad that this is what had to do it. But I had a friend, Mark, and I met him when I was 15, and just super nerd. Computers, math, comic books, role-play games, the uber nerd. Very, very intelligent, horribly socially awkward. Huge big guy, 6'6", 200 something pounds, messy long hair, did not take care of himself very well, but he was a sweetheart of a man. Hilarious. One of the funniest people I've ever known or will ever know. And has been a comedic influence on me. Very dark.
Who is this?
Mark Argyle.
Okay.
We called him Beard Maggot.
I like that.
The Beard Maggot. And he had his own little radio show that he put on the internet called The Maggot Has Nothing Better to Do show. And it was like his persona, this bored alien warlord and his demon imp host Frugal. And they were hilarious. But he opted out in 2009. Right around when I was going to,
when you were gonna,
where I was gonna, and it pulled me out of it entirely. the impact that it had on everybody, on his family, on us.
You got to witness it firsthand.
Yeah. It was very jarring, but I don't hold any animosity or ill will towards him because I understand entirely why. But, he had, and I don't know, maybe it's terrible to use this word, but he had the luxury to opt out because he didn't have anyone
that he had to take care of.
And that does not minimize the impact that it had, of course, on his mother and father and siblings or, his family. But I'm looking at it from a kind of a practical approach. But, so yeah, that pulled me out. And then I'm like, I need to find something. I need to find something to keep me together.
An outlet. And
I was like, comedy. Everyone keeps telling me, you should do comedy. So at the end of 2009, I started, and I'd loved comedy growing up. And then I just kind of fell out of it and got back into it. Like in 2006 on YouTube, started discovering comedians. And so I just started amassing a lot of DVDs and CDs and really like studying the art of it, reading interviews and reading about how you do it. And that's when I discovered, I started looking for Salt Lake comics. That's when I discovered, a clip of Levi Rounds.
Did you know any of the Salt Lake comics at this point?
Not a one of them.
Really?
Not a one of them. And so yeah, it was a couple of clips of Levi at Moe's, and this is probably in 2000 or early 2010 when I found these clips.
He's a great local.
He's great. And I just connected so well with his material, and I was just like, this I can. So he was, in that sense, a big inspiration to me. And finally, and I saw him and Cody Eden open for Doug Stanhope in 2011.
How was that show, buddy?
That was fantastic.
I've never seen. I love Doug Stanhope, but I've never seen him perform live.
That was amazing. It was when he shot the Before Turning the Gun on Himself DVD over at the Complex.
I remember that. Yeah. And I don't know why I didn't go to that show, but there was something stopping me. But anyway, so you saw him at that show.
Yeah. And I introduced myself to him and we talked very briefly. I was super shy.
You introduced yourself to Levi.
To Levi and Cody and told them they were really funny. And then in April of 2012, I'm like, okay, life is to a point now where like I gotta go do this. I have got to do this or it's not gonna happen. And so I told all my friends, I was like, I know you're not supposed to have your friends when you go do your first open mic because, I'll probably fail miserably, and I'm fine with that. I'm comfortable with you guys seeing me fail miserably, but I need you there. I want to do this, but it seems so daunting. And so I put together like 2.5 minutes of material. I went and watched an open mic over at the Trolley Square Wise Guys and went, okay, so,
this is how you do it.
This is how you do it. I saw how the system worked, and then in early May of 2012, I went out and did my first open mic, and I was a wreck. And I finally the host Tim finally hunted me down. And he's like, "Are you going up?" And he's like, "I'm scared." And he took me out. It was like really nice, and he's like, "Look, it's okay. Even if you can just do like a minute, even if you can just go up, say your name, and say a joke." That's fine. And so I kind of got focused, went up on stage, couldn't remember any of my material. And
you didn't take notes up with you. You just
I forgot my notes. And so I addressed it. I just was like, okay, I got to tell the crowd. And I'm like, I can't remember anything, and made it funny and told them how scared I was. And then I finally, and started doing my jokes. And I didn't destroy, but I did okay. I didn't make
you got a few laughs.
I got a few laughs. I didn't make an ass of myself. And so I was like, okay, I made it. I survived. So that was it. That was my first official open mic.
Did you go back the next week or what?
I went back the next month with some different material, and that went over okay. And then I went back a third time, and did some different material, and I got escorted off stage before I could finish the bit. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's right out of my life. It's where it's the one where I accidentally came all over my cat's face one night. I didn't even know she was on the bed. It was pitch black. I was tired. My wiener wouldn't let me sleep. Was ill. Was coming down with something. And so I just finally was like, fuck this. And I pulled the covers back and kind of sat up in bed, did my thing. And I was just gonna, just go back. I didn't care. I was just exhausted. Didn't feel good. I'll sleep in my own jizz. I don't care. And then I felt something wiggling in my bed, and it freaked me out. It's like, what's in here? And I got out of bed and found the light, turned it on, turned around, and there's my poor fucking cat just cum all over her face. She looks miserable. She's starting to lick it off. And
you got escorted off
for telling that.
At a Wise Guys.
At Wise Guys, yeah. I got lighted off stage, and Tim really chewed me out.
Do you think, because you've said that joke since.
Yeah.
And you haven't been escorted.
Well, I haven't done it at Wise Guys, though.
I've heard Wise Guys is a little less censored. They used to be worse than they are now, or no?
I don't know. I've only have... The problem is
because to be censored as a comic seems silly.
Yeah. And I'd been to a few open mics, and I was like, wow, sky seems to be the limit, but I don't know if there'd been complaints or something, but I wasn't the only one that got pulled off stage that night. I just kind of stayed out in the...
Because I heard that you used to not even be able to swear at open mics, at Wise Guys. Is that true?
I've heard varying things. I know that back in the day, they tried, at least as far as the open mics went, tried to keep it cleaner, because they didn't want to alienate audiences, and but they would have, if you were a touring pro comedian, then they'd
allowed,
book you and you could say whatever you want, but usually those people come with their own audience, and then of course they would warn on their website whether they were.
How is that? Somebody like yourself, you don't hold back as a comic.
No.
And so do you find in situations like that, you must get really frustrated, or how do you handle that? Because obviously you don't have a clean set to pull out.
No.
Or do you?
I do. I have clean material, but it's not happy material. It's a lot of it's dark, and then if my lighter hearted silly stuff is usually when it's the more filthy stuff, but I kind of had to learn to adapt, because I got asked not to return to Wise Guys, and at the time I thought Tim, what he said went, and that wasn't the case at all. I've since then, I've had like Andy Gold and Christian Piper and Guy, tell me, he's like, oh man, I wish that you knew that he was not, he does not make policy there. You could have come back and, been apologetic and just kind of, watched your step a little bit and done different material, and you would have been okay. But I thought that, what he said went. And so I ended up doing, open mics Wednesdays over at the Muse Music Cafe in Provo. And, that was interesting.
Because that's Provo.
That's Provo.
Where it's real G-rated down there.
But, I was good on the nights when there was a lot of the tattoo and piercing kids there. And I wouldn't curse. I wouldn't go into sexual material, but I could get dark. I could talk about suicide and depression and, those kinds of things. But I stayed away from the sexual material, and I was okay. And sometimes, it went well, and other times it was just crickets. I was like, I am not connecting to these people. And so I started to learn just by looking at the crowds and how they were dressed. I was like, oh, okay, this is a really squeaky clean BYU crowd. So this is going to be rough. But then what I saw was the more, edgier kids there playing their guitars, because it was mainly a music open mic. I was okay. And so I could kind of go down some weird dark paths and it would go well. So, but that's where I mainly cut my teeth was in Provo. And I've Debbie and Darcy Roy who run that place. I have a huge debt of gratitude to the both of them because they gave me a place where I could go. And they laid down the rules. As far as they were concerned, they could care less what I said, but they knew they were in Provo. It's advertised as a, family mic. And so but I knew the rules. I knew the parameters. And at my open mics, the line is sometimes very amorphous. You're not quite sure what's too far and what isn't. And so it's a tougher line to toe because I'm not sure where it is. So
have you have you done any stand up outside of Utah at all? Or just all in Utah?
Not yet. That's my next goal, is to get out of Utah, maybe do some festivals and, maybe go out with a 2 or 3 comics, do a road trip and, hit up like Vegas and Arizona and Colorado and just different places where we have contacts. And
how much material do you have? I mean, do you have 30 minutes or 45 or?
I'd say I've probably got over an hour of material, but I would say probably like 45 good minutes.
Have you done an hour yet show? No, not yet.
The longest I've done is 30 minutes, and that was at the Joker's Gone Wild show back in April. So they let me headline. It was a lot of fun, and it was kind of nice being able to do that much time because I could kind of pace myself more and didn't feel like I had to kind of rush through it.
Let's talk about the Dungeons and Comedy. That's the name of it, right? Mm-hmm. That's a show you do. Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing that? And what's the story behind starting that?
I've been doing that since May of last year.
So pretty new.
Yeah, but I kind of got. I kind of wanted to run a show too. Kind of contribute, kind of give back to the scene, because I'd been on a lot of shows and guys like Jason Harvey and Christopher Stevenson and the Joker's Gone Wild guys, they'd all been kind enough to give me some stage time. And I was really inspired by Jason Harvey's Comedy and Other Opinions show that he does, where the format of that is he has 3 or 4 comics booked. They go up, they do their set, and then they stay on stage, and he comes up and they both sit down with mics, and then he asks their opinions on just absurd topics. And it was a chance to show that, they're funny with their written material, but they're funny off the cuff too. They can improvise. And so those were fun, random shows. And so I was trying to think, well, what is something I could do that would be different and could kind of showcase these comedians' ability to kind of improv. And I remembered, some of the times where I laughed the hardest was when I was with my friends playing, Dungeons and Dragons or Cyberpunk or whatever we were playing. The situations we'd get in, the things we'd have our characters say was hilarious. And I thought, boom, there it is. Get some comedians with playing some Dungeons and Dragons and just let the silliness ensue.
So kind of reliving your childhood a little bit with the Dungeons and Dragons, like we were talking about in the beginning of this conversation. Mm-hmm. So is this like a monthly thing then that you do, or?
Yeah, it is a monthly thing, and but I started it in Provo at the Muse. Okay. Because of the time, and it's still the case now. There's just a lot of shit going on up in Salt Lake City all the time with comedy shows, and so it's hard to throw one more show in there and try and find another venue. And I kind of wanted to start something in Utah County where I live, and see if I could get a following and just kind of have a venue that would be really fresh and different for these Salt Lake-based comedians.
So it's always down in... Have you ever done it in Salt Lake?
I have had to since the Muse shut down.
Okay, so Muse isn't even around anymore.
Yeah, not for now. They had the shut down in my last show there was in early December. And so they had to shut down just because they weren't making enough money. And the University Avenue in Provo was like prime real estate property. And so the rent was really high. And so they weren't making any money. They were hemorrhaging money, and so I don't know if they were hemorrhaging, but it was tough to get through month after month, and so they're looking for a place. So I've heard they've got some good nibbles, and so hopefully they'll be up and running sometime end of the year. And when that happens, I'll move the show back there. But in the meantime, I've been doing it at like Sugar Space. Did like 3 or 4 shows in 3 shows at Sugar Space, 1 at the University of Utah in the Student Theater, and Moe's.
How can people find out more about that? We'll get into all your contact at the end of the show, but since we're discussing it, is there a website at all for it, or just your Facebook?
Just Facebook and Twitter. There's actually a Dungeons and Comedy Facebook page people can find.
Okay, and I'll put that link on the show notes for this episode.
Cool.
So people can go to the iamsaltlake.com website. You have a show, you mentioned you do have a show coming up.
Yeah.
July 20th, or is that the Dungeons and Comedy?
Yeah, so it'll be Thursday, July 23rd at Moe's Diner, which is on 1280 South 3rd West. It's right next to the Nightmare on 13th
So it's
Street.
a nice little place. It's a nice
little
diner.
place. Jason Harvey got shows going there. Of course, Johnny Brandon does the Tuesday night open mics there. And so it's just a great little place to do comedy, and it's particularly for my kind of show, because I've never wanted to run it like at a bar or something, because those are too loud and noisy, and you have to pay attention, and it has to be quiet, or you're gonna lose kind of the nuances of the show, particularly the role play segment, because a lot of the comedy and humor comes out of that, the subtleties and So I like doing it at quieter, more intimate venues.
Where would you like to see comedy lead you? Is this just an outlet for you right now? Would you like to see something bigger happen? Where would you like to see yourself go? I
want to take it as far as I can take it. There's no plan B. This is it. So I don't know what's going to happen. I would like to be able to, my dreams are very, very small and practical. I would just like to be able to not have a day job and just do comedy. If I could get on and I know it's going to take a lot of years. It's not going to be an overnight thing. I'm prepared for that. But if it could be just even like as grand as my dreams get, would be like a Stanhopian level where, I've got a place of my own, and I make enough money off of the comedy to live a comfortable middle class lifestyle, and that's where all my income and revenue comes.
I think most of us dream of that, though. You know what I mean? Or at least I know I do. I just want a modest life, and be happy, and I don't need 5 cars and a mansion on the hill in Draper. No. I don't need any of that stuff. But what are some of your influences now in the comedy world? You mentioned Stanhope.
Yeah, he's definitely a big one for me. George Carlin.
Oh, brilliant comedian.
And I really liked his specials as they got darker and darker and darker. I really loved where they went. Life is Worth Losing, his 2005 special, is one of my favorites of his. It's not a lot of people's, but I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Other ones, Patton Oswalt is another big influence on me. I just like the way he writes and performs. Maria Bamford is another one. I love her material. I think she's brilliant. She's one of the most unique comedians out there. She just has her own way of writing and her own voice and her own, just very, very original.
Yeah.
Dave Attell, just because he's hilarious. He's not my favorite comic, but I think he's probably one of the funniest comics. And I've seen him 3 times, and he always makes me laugh. I like Dave Chappelle is phenomenal, and I would like to see some new material of his come out soon.
He kind of went into hiding for
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So I've heard rumors that he's, recorded another hour. So hopefully that'll
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed, yeah. But, as far as, like, comedy goes, stand-up comedians that I like, it goes the gamut, from, like, Stanhope to Gaffigan.
Yeah.
I even like, a lot of Brian Regan stuff, even though he's not.
Which he's a very clean comic.
Yeah, very, very clean comic, but, I like a lot of his stuff. I think he's funny. So for me, as long as you're funny, I will enjoy your material. Have a unique perspective on things. That's what I look for. Is this, as long as you're funny and you're kind of not. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Just entertaining, fun, funny. Kind of have your own voice,
your own style
of doing things. So I like. But at the end of the day, I really do like the comics that really have kind of. A social awareness to their material. So Carlin, Stanhope, Patton Oswalt, Bill Burr, the late great Bill Hicks, comics like that. I like comedy that's challenging and makes you think as well as laugh. I'm not afraid to listen to because there's like stretches of like Hicks or Carlin where you don't laugh at all, but it's fascinating what they're
they're smart people,
Yeah.
Their minds, they're not afraid to test the waters and make you think a little bit. And I think so many people are afraid of that. They're afraid, well, if I say this, then, what are people going to think of me? What are people going to think in general?
Yeah.
But, well, you've listened to the podcast a handful of times. I know, we've talked about that. So I always ask, like, what are some favorite things about Salt Lake City? I mean, obviously this is a Salt Lake City podcast. Let's say somebody was visiting Salt Lake. What are some things that, you would say, you got to check this out in Salt Lake City? Anything.
There's one, I would say, check out the temple. You got to go see the temple. Check it out. It's beautiful architecture. It's however you feel about religion, you should go check it out. It's beautiful. It's interesting. It's part of the culture. And then on the other hand, go check out the heavy metal shop.
Yeah.
Go check that out.
Kevin, great guy down there at the heavy metal shop.
Oh yeah.
Did you listen to that interview I did with him?
Not yet.
Gosh, that was a couple of years ago. I went down to his shop and just set my gear up in there, and that was that. Oh man,
I bet
that guy's got such a fun story.
Oh, I bet.
And the things he's seen through the years, and but yeah, the heavy metal shop. Anything else, or that's some good things to check out. What about places to eat? What about any recommendations of local eating spots that Nicholas would recommend?
Well, I don't know a lot. I'm still discovering a lot of places, but
I am too.
Street tacos, they're all over. I like the pie, particularly the one by the university, just because it's like dark and dank and kind of gritty down there. I like it.
Have you written on the wall down there?
Nah,
never. Come on, Nicholas.
No, I don't know. Just my mind's on food, so when I go there, so I'll sometimes go after the Monday night open mic with some of the comics. I like. I feel like I'm on the spot. There's that Charlie Chow's Dragon Cafe.
Oh, they're Mongolian.
They're Mongolian.
Yeah.
Oh man, Stefan Reed introduced me to that place, and I like going there again because it's like kind of this.
It's different.
It's different, and you get to park in that kind of spooky underground parking next to it, where it's like something terrible is going to happen. Someone's going to come and carve our faces off, and
but it doesn't matter because
that's still worth it. I want that Mongolian barbecue in my body. God damn it! So I like that place. I don't know, and go check out the cathedral there too. That's awesome. Man, I'm blanking. I feel like I'm on the spot.
No, you're fine. So you mentioned you have a thing coming up on the 23rd, right? That's what we said, right? The Dungeons and Comedy.
Yeah.
Anything else coming up, or any other shows you want to plug, or?
Yeah, I got. Was my phone off? I got one I'm going to be doing mid-July over at one of the comedians, Kean Clark. He's got a garage and he's kind of set it up to do like little house shows.
Yeah, I've seen some Facebook. How are those?
They're a blast.
I've gotten some invites for those.
Yeah,
and I've been wanting to come check them out.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. It's just really no pressure shows, so they're a lot of fun just to go and do, and just go up and have a lot of fun. Bring your own booze events. Usually it's just other comics and friends who show up to those, but sometimes those are the funnest people to perform for. But I'm doing a show with Nirvana Huntington, who is a musician. And so she's going to be performing with both of her bands, Silver Slippers and Nirvana Huntington and the Gay Agenda. Natasha Maurer is going to be hosting. I'm going to be on that show. Crystal Starr is going to be on that show from the Hello Sweetie podcast. And let me bring up the text message she sent me. July 11th. It'll be Saturday, July 11th. Probably 7-ish. And that'll be Kean Clark's place on 145 West Winchester Street in Murray.
Okay.
It'll be free. So that'll be awesome. I'll be doing about all the comics will do about 10 minutes. And then she'll be playing with her two bands. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll be a good show.
I think so. So yeah, those are the only two things I got booked so far for July. So I don't really have a whole lot for now because, I've done a lot of the stages, and so I'm kind of out of rotation. They're putting other comics on the shows.
Yeah.
Got to give everyone a chance to.
In a nutshell, what do you think of the Salt Lake City or the Utah County or the local comedy scene in general?
I really like it. I've met a lot of amazing people through it. I've made a lot of really good friends, and so they're not just like colleagues. Or a lot of them are also really good friends. I've gotten a tremendous amount of support from them. I've got no complaints. I've been treated very well and very kindly, and so I owe a lot of what little success that I have to these comics, the showrunners, the people who were kind enough to let us do shows in their venues. I am very community oriented, and I try to do as much as I possibly can to help pull everyone up. And I don't just promote my stuff. I like to promote everybody's stuff, because the more people that know that there's comedy in Utah, the better. I just like seeing people going out to the shows.
Why do you think people are afraid to promote for other people? I notice that you do, but I notice that what would it take to get everybody to do that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is,
it's hard to speak for
I have no
people,
idea.
yeah.
A lot of the time you're just busy. You're busy and you've got all this other shit to do. And, you get focused on your own things. It's like, I've only got 10 minutes. I got to go promote myself. And,
yeah.
So I try to make time for it. So, I don't know what to suggest, but, it works for me and I like doing it and I enjoy doing it. And I think it's important to be able to get everyone out, spread the word. The more people who knows that comedy is out there, the better it is for everybody.
And I agree.
So
let's run down the list. How can people find you online? I know you're on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, Twitter. So at Nick Smith Comedy on Twitter.
NICK Smith, SMITH Smith, Nick Smith Comedy. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then you can just find me on Facebook, my personal page, Nicholas Don Smith. And then I have a like page for Dungeons and Comedy. So yeah, go check that out. I do that with got to give a shout out to my partner, Aaron Orlovitz, who I've pulled into that. So we do the shows together. One of us hosts, the other one does the dungeon mastering. So we just alternate. And so yeah, you can find, that's the other one. And then I have a like page, Nicholas Smith Comedy. So
I don't even know if I've liked that page. I got to find it.
The only reason I set it up was because I didn't have like a website and looking at some of the festivals, it's like, well, hey, what's your website address? I'm like, I don't have one, but here's a Facebook like page I guess I could use. So I don't use it that much, but it's out there.
Yeah. Well, I've had a hell of a time chatting with you.
Oh, right back at you. This was awesome. I hope I didn't bore you to tears. No, you were great. I mean, you feel good? You like it? You enjoy yourself? I can't stand myself, and I hate pretty much everything that I write. And the only reason I keep doing it is because I listen back to the recordings and I'm like, oh, well, other people like this, so I guess it's not garbage. And so I just keep developing it and changing it and developing it. So I have problems.
All right. Many thanks goes out to Nicholas Don Smith for coming on this episode of the podcast. I know I had a great time chatting with him, finding out his story. Make sure you connect with him on Facebook. And I'm going to put the links on the show notes for this episode. You can find that at imsaltlake.com. Connect with him. One thing he also mentioned after we were done recording, he is going to be headlining a show at Sandy Station August 2nd. You might be familiar with Christopher James. He's a friend of the podcast. He is going to be having a bit of an event there on August 2nd at Sandy Station for his podcast, In Movie Nerds We Trust. Great podcast, by the way. Make sure you check it out. And Nicholas Don Smith is headlining that. So you might want to follow Christopher James or Nicholas Don Smith. That way you can find out more about that event. Hey, there's a few ways you can help the I Am Salt Lake podcast. First and foremost, make sure you're sharing your favorite episodes with your family and friends on any social media sites. That way they could check out those episodes, give them a listen. If you have not left a review in iTunes, it takes you just a few seconds, helps the show out immensely, helps boost the ratings, and gets it exposed to more people. You can also leave a review at Stitcher Radio. Also, drop me an email, iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show, if you'd like to come on the show. If you have any people you would like to hear me chat with, drop me an email at iamsaltlake@gmail.com. Hey, like I said, I love each and every one of you, your continual support, your tweets, your Facebook messages. I love each and every one of you, and I love to hear from you guys and love to know what you're thinking of the show. That's going to do it for this week. I'm going to be back again next week, the brand new episode, a brand new conversation. So until then, get out and enjoy the city, and we'll chat again real soon.